Welcome to another episode of the BlueFort Blueprint. Today, we want to bring to you the hot topic of front running. A lot of you may have read that Quant Mutual Fund has been accused of front running, right? And before we get into the discussion, I thought it would be a good idea to explain what front running is in the first place, right? So, Sayam, perhaps you can enlighten our viewers on what front running is and what exactly is going on with Quant Mutual Fund.
So front running essentially means anyone that is privy to the information what a fund is about to do, what trades they're about to undertake. Those guys take advantage of the information that they have. So I'll give you a very simple example. If Quant Mutual Fund or any mutual fund decides to purchase a stock, say if they're buying 500 crores of that stock, purchasing anything in such a large quantity is bound to drive up the price. Now, there are certain people inside the organization that know that the price is going to go up when they make that trade. So before that happens, they take advantage of it. They place a trade themselves. They buy the stock, wait for Quant to buy it. Once the stock price goes up, they'll sell it. So because of that inside information that they have, they profit off of that, and that is something that actually ends up harming the investors or harming the fund, and that's why it's looked down upon globally and not a great practice.
Not just looked down upon, but it's illegal.
It is illegal.
And I think SEBI started a probe in this. And let's see, usually these investigations last a few months before we know. But in our experience, there's never a smoke without any fire, right?
Yep.
If this news has come up, then there's bound to be something that SEBI will find, I'm fairly sure. And I think last year, we saw Axis Mutual Fund also go through a similar thing where this guy called Viresh Joshi had done front running in 6 funds and he had made profits to the tune of several hundred crores, if
Yeah,
I'm
I think
not
he
wrong.
bought a great, so many luxury cars and
He had
bungalows and
cars
all
and
that,
he would
right?
show them off very
Correct.
proudly.
Yeah.
And I think that the quantum of how much he earned, I think that just goes completely under the radar. You never really know because people do it from so many different accounts. It's very difficult to track. But as you said, there's never smoke without fire. I do not think SEBI would have. Keep in mind, SEBI has raided Quant's offices,
Right.
multiple offices. They would not have taken such an extreme step unless they have some kind of data which shows the need to do that.
But let's take a step back, right? Let's understand this entire story, or let's understand Quant Mutual Fund in general, right? We ourselves as advisors, we've always been wondering whether to give out quant funds or not because there has always been some kind of a black box, or let's say some uncertainty towards their performances. They've been, I mean, to credit to them, they've been stupendous performers, phenomenal. I mean, what all staggering, I would say, in terms of
Across
AUM
all
growth, right?
funds.
They were at 100 crores in 2019. Right now, they're managing 90,000 crores. I don't think Indian mutual fund industry
Yeah.
has ever seen someone like Sandeep Tandon or let's say a Quant Mutual Fund get that much growth, right? So quick, so fast, correct? So during these 5 years, we haven't recommended quant funds as much as yet, right? Some things here and there, but the idea is there was always this some kind of uncertainty, some kind of black box, correct? So when this news came in on a Monday, on a Sunday evening, right, when in we just got a notification through Money Control. I think they were the first ones to report it, saying that they have raided all their offices in Mumbai and Hyderabad. Of course, there were no distinct or there were no accusations directly, but the idea is that they personally purchased it in their account, some of the funds. And mind you, Quant Mutual Funds have 14 distinct companies that they are the single investors. So it becomes slightly easier for them to kind of do front running if they have. Now, look,
Yeah.
honestly, the consequences of this is something that we'll know once the SEBI's rule comes out or whatever. If it is at a management level, it's disastrous. If, let's say, someone like a Sandeep Tandon or someone has done it, it's, of course, very, very bad. If it is at an analyst level, again, as you mentioned, it's illegal. There will be consequences to that, but to a lower extent to it.
That's a very important point. It really comes down to who has done it. Now, keep in mind that Quant essentially is a one-man show. Right?
Right.
Sandeep Tandon, he's done it phenomenally well to grow it that much. Because it's grown so quickly, perhaps, there hasn't been a layer of middle management that's been built in. Right? Sandeep Tandon is still very hands-on. The team that most mutual funds have that size of different portfolio managers, of different analysts, Quant does not have that, right? So the key man risk is huge. If Sandeep Tandon does get or is shown to be involved in this, that could be disastrous for Quant.
According to you, if somebody is holding on to a Quant Mutual Fund, do they need to react immediately, or can they continue to hold on these funds? Because let's understand from an investor's perspective, even though there is a front running charge, what and even if it's proven right, at the end of the day, still, despite that, Quant has delivered returns which are far, far superior
Yeah.
than a lot of fund houses,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
And usually, front running, while it's a very unethical thing to do, the actual impact on investors is not very large.
So one thing that I'd like just remind everyone that a mutual fund does not work like a stock. So in a company, if there is an issue, some issue
Correct.
breaks out, the stock price collapses because people sell that. The mutual fund doesn't work the same way because it's essentially a pass-through vehicle. The value of your NAV will depend on the underlying investments. So there will be no fall immediately like that. What can happen over time is a bit of pressure because of redemptions. So if because of this news people start redeeming, because of that Quant has to start selling their holdings, then they may see a little bit of a negative impact in the prices of the holdings, especially because of the strategy that they follow. They invest in companies which are based on momentum. So companies that are doing well. Though companies like that, because they're based on momentum, they will see a larger negative impact.
I believe as an investor, right, if you have significantly invested in a quant small cap fund, active fund, or whatever fund you have, right, in general, you have to wait for SEBI's conclusion because as Sayyam mentioned, correct, it's not a company, the stock itself, which is accused of market manipulation. If Quant MF was a stock,
Yeah.
and if you held that stock, maybe you redeem that, right? But right now, it's a fund house that has been accused, right? Not charged. So once the charges come in, once we understand the order, then we understand what kind of selling pressures are coming. Because any selling pressure on a small cap fund or a mid cap fund will lead to massive underperformances going forward. What you've booked till date, nothing happens to that, right? You book your profits. I think this is what happened in Axis also. Axis Blue Chip, Axis Mid Cap, and most of the other Axis funds, right? Great performers up till that particular point wherein this entire insider trading or front running came out, correct? And after that, we've seen, right, continuous underperformance from their standpoint as well. So with Quant, you have to wait and understand. Mind you, in fact, this was Neil's article. Neil is, we've done a couple of podcasts with him too. This was his article where it mentioned that 50% of Quant's investments are cash and cash equivalents and large caps. So I think they have a significant exposure to Reliance, Jio, and HDFC Bank per se. So it might not be as bad as thought. But again, I repeat myself, if it is on Sandeep Tandon, it's a big thing because you do not want to work with someone who's unethical no matter how good he or she is. That means that, okay, just because someone's giving you money, making money for you, and they're just absolutely low class, you kind of work with them. That should not happen. If it's not Sandeep Tandon, then you take a call depending on the fund that you are invested into, whether to hold on to it or sell or probably just buy more.
So even if it's not Sandeep Tandon, by the way, if you remember looking back at Axis, it was a dealer. It was not the fund manager or the
Correct.
CIO.
Correct.
But there was a significant shakeup in the management. The CEO stepped down.
Right.
The head of research stepped down. So it still does have an impact, even if it's at the lower level. They'll have to bring in more controls. And what's followed with Axis is that they have a very, very stringent eye by the regulator and by auditors now.
Correct.
They've significantly stepped up their controls, which we have also seen in our dealings with them. So I think how Quant will be able to manage that, how they're able to become more institutionalized and work around that, that is a key question.
Yeah, and I'm not too concerned about the front running that has happened because monetarily speaking, I don't think it'll impact the investors too much. They've still performed extremely well. But what I am concerned with is the key man risk that we spoke about. Perhaps SEBI should look into how fast they've grown, what their AUM is, and perhaps if you are at a certain level of AUM, then you should have a middle layer of management. You should have a lot more compliance, which is not the case with Quant Mutual Fund right now. So a lot of clients ask us that why don't you recommend Quant Mutual Fund? One of the reasons is because we are just not fully comfortable with the structure of the fund house. It's still a very one-man show, and if something happens to, let's say, that person, or for whatever reason, that person gets a couple of calls wrong, and they're not around at Quant Mutual Fund anymore, or whatever the
Correct,
reason
whatever
may
the
be,
reason.
it's not a comfortable position to put my own money in or for my
Absolutely.
clients' money.
It's just that if you're comparing it and we're just figuring out what investors should do, right? I think what is going to work for Quant nicely is that they were not Axis or they were not first. Basically, Axis first, yeah, you mentioned, right? They had significant changes plus a lot of redemptions because it was a panic thing, right? Suddenly front running, pehli baar sun rahe log, most of the retail investors, SIP band karo, ye band karo. With Quant, that might not happen because
Yeah.
people, abhi to dekha hai. A. B, if we see if it happened on a Sunday, on a Monday, on a Tuesday, both the days quants saw positive inflows, net inflows, right? Which says that okay, there are, I mean, redemptions do happen, but there are
There's no pack
inflows
selling,
also.
panic selling.
Exactly. So the panic selling is not there, which might just help them to kind of sustain it. But as he mentioned, right, you're dependent on one person. If he's gone, then yeah, I mean, what's the way forward?
Yeah, because there's too much power in the hands of one person.
Yeah.
And when there's too much power, when you give 1 lakh crore to one person to manage, you can do all sorts of wrong things with it as well, right? Front running is one, but insider trading is also another. And I'm not saying that Quant is involved in that at all. That's not what I'm saying. But what I mean by insider trading is that when somebody who has access to 1 lakh crores worth of funds, with the power of that money, they can influence promoters or they can influence the stock price of a lot of illiquid companies or small cap companies, right? They can drive the price up, or price down or whatever they want to do with it. And that in an artificial way also inflates or deflates the NAV. To a certain extent, right? And when there's a liquidity crisis, this is something that happened with Franklin. A lot of people don't understand that the portfolio was not bad, but there was a liquidity crisis at which the investors could not get out, right? When the 6 debt funds were frozen. So these are the reasons why we are not so comfortable with the current structure of the fund house. And once I think that improves, then of course, by all means, I think he's a very, very smart guy, and he's actually shown an entire industry that there's another style of money management that can be brought.
Correct.
It's not just buy and hold, and that has not worked.
We do have these conversations with a lot of AMCs in general, the traditional ones, and you kind of sense some kind of insecurity or jealousy, let's say, not outright out there कि यार ये बंदा था ट्रेडर वेडर जो भी था आके बस 2019 से लेके अब तक, and as I said, right, outstanding performance wise and backing by the AUM that he's managing. So of course there is some kind of animosity out there.
Yeah.
Because he's an outsider. So remember,
Correct, exactly.
Quant is not backed by a house. It's not an Axis or an SBI or HDFC, which has a larger brand name. There's just one guy that's made it. So he is an outsider. To answer your question, what we should be doing with the funds, I think it really comes down to how much allocation you have in Quant. I'm not saying that you should panic sell, but if it's a very large allocation, I know people that have put significant into Quant small cap only.
Not just Quant small cap, but they've taken every single
Quant fund. Yeah, there are people like that.
The
that have
Quant
every single Quant
portfolios.
fund.
Yeah.
They should, turn a bit more cautious and work towards a more balanced portfolio. End of the day, diversification really makes a big difference. And you should have schemes from different fund houses because each has a different investment style. So it just goes back to that core philosophy of diversification.
I think if Quant is generally more than 20% of your portfolio as a fund house exposure, perhaps it's better to just reduce and
20 is
bring
on
it
the
down.
higher side still, I would say.
Yeah, 20 is on the
Yeah,
higher
yeah.
side. I would say that anything above 15% already you should trim it down. So one more thing that happened interestingly last week is the whole Groww fraud. Although it's not a fraud, right? It was just an error. But what had happened was that an investor tried to invest through the Groww platform,
Right.
where they wanted to buy the units of Parag Parikh FlexiCap Fund, I believe.
Was it? I don't know the.
Parag Parikh
yeah,
FlexiCap Fund. The folio was also given to them,
Right.
but the investment was never made. And after 3 years, when they went to redeem the units of Parag Parikh, it was found that there is no such investments.
Correct.
When they checked directly with Parag Parikh, the mutual fund house, right? So that really scared a lot of people. Because is it possible that you make an investment through a platform
Correct.
and आपके वो units ही नहीं है, right? So that is quite scary.
You won't believe this happened today. Literally just before this shooting, I got a call from someone saying that अच्छा वो पूरा ग्रो का हो गया था, a new prospective client, वो पूरा ग्रो का सीन हो गया था, तो आप कौन है क्या है पूरा एकदम बराबर से बताइए ना. And random guy, and I was like, okay, fair enough, because you understand people are scared. It's not about what's your portfolio size or how much that those units worth are or whatever, but people are scared because they've seen for the first time that by investing in an online portal or an app, right, you just sometimes can be so lost because there is no one to talk to. You have to be waiting for some raise a ticket kind of a thing, then wait for those responses. It takes days or maybe months to solve those, correct? So what happens is there is always this risk of technology which ideally has not been experienced in a mutual fund scenario. We've seen all kind of other things, market timing ho, ye ho, wo ho. But this is the technology bit where technology can go wrong. Even if they showed something to the client saying that on your portal you can see you have 100 units of particular fund, which are actually not there, that's wrong, right? At the end of the day, because you get a false sense of security that you have that money.
Correct.
So it is something that investors should be wary about. that if there is something you cannot talk to, there is someone not holding your hand through this, then is it worth investing through that?
Yeah, and people don't understand that something on an app can be created by anyone.
Exactly.
That's not proof of your actual investment.
Absolutely.
Even the BlueFort, even our app for that matter, if it shows that you have 1 lakh invested,
Correct.
there is a way for you to actually check if that 1 lakh is actually invested and where the units are.
Correct.
Right? Just relying on the user interface of that app, right, is not the proof.
Especially when it comes to mutual funds, there should be a default practice for every investor out there that whenever your investment is done through BlueFort Financial, through Groww, or through, let's say, someone else, right?
Yeah.
You have to check something called as an SOA, which is a statement of account.
Yeah.
It comes on your registered email. You can ask your broker or advisor to send it to you. You have to check your NSDL cash, which is, or CDSL, which is generally generated after 10-15 days of the previous month, where you can check all your holdings at once. So it's just a good practice. I'm not saying month in, month out, just keep doing that, but it's a good practice to have that in a tabular format, so that you're aware as to what
One more
have.
way is you can also log in directly to CAMS and Carvi, which is the RTAs.
Correct, exactly. Wow. Yeah.
Right, of these mutual fund houses, and they also send you a consolidated, which includes all your mutual fund investments.
Correct.
Right, in one place. So that is another way where you can check.
Do you guys know that if any of these apps allow you to go to the SOA from the of the fund house? Because our app does that.
Our
Right.
software does
Our
that, yeah.
software does that. You can download the SOA from the app. I don't know if Groww and all do
See,
this.
I'll tell you what. I think they might have it. Generally, it's a good practice.
If
and
they do,
would
then
have
it's quite easy for people to go, and I would urge everyone to do this. For each of your investments, go and check the SOA. If it's an easy clickable thing, then
Correct. See,
definitely
they
should
would
do it
have it,
immediately.
but the idea is the information is not out
People
there
don't know about
to
it.
check it or whatever.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing, right, record SIP numbers on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
And credit where it's due. It's because of these apps also. It's so easy now to just start an SIP or just to invest lump sum in a mutual fund. But the idea is people don't know उसके बाद क्या. अगर समझो फ्रैंकलिन जैसा इशू हुआ, ये कॉन्ट का जो इशू बात किया, if something like this happens, you want to redeem
No
your
one to
money, you wanna
handhold
hold.
you.
So what else to be done, right? And you can't bloody raise tickets every time and be like, अच्छा मेरे 2 लाख रुपए अभी क्या करूँ इसका?
Yeah.
Correct. That's still not fair to the investors. So these platform only apps like your Groww or Paytm Money, whatever, and I'm outright saying that it's not the right way. Maybe stocks to a certain extent, yes, but mutual funds should not be done from there.
It's
What
okay
I
for
would-
people who have very small savings, who are just starting out.
Correct.
But I think if you have, from your standard, any meaningful savings, right, and if you've saved up 15, 20, 25, 50 lakhs, 1 CR, at that point in time, it's best to start working with somebody, so that you don't panic. Like you said, raising tickets, on a 1 crore investment size, raising tickets is
Stupid,
not the way,
yeah.
is not the way to proceed with any of your queries. So that's definitely there, yeah.
People, we often get this question that what you're offering, investing in mutual funds, I can do that through Groww or Zerodha or
Correct.
whatever. But the distinction is that these are platforms. These are not investment managers. They're just providing convenience to punch in the transaction. They're not actually doing anything other than that. They're not giving you advice, hand-holding you through any of this, or managing or reconciling for you. All of that, ideally, if you can't do it yourself, then ideally work with someone.
No, one
Yeah.
thing I didn't like about this particular incident, I think it's important to highlight that out as well, is that the follow-up social media post by the individual was of the note that he received the money, Quant kind of solved their query and all. But
Groww.
Groww, sorry.
Yeah.
One particular thing that, I didn't like it was that they said that this individual mentioned they have specifically asked me that they will refund the money if I delete this particular post, right? So we are talking about the units है नहीं है, आपने पास units नहीं, आपने उसको refund कर दिया, चलो कोई नहीं, बात बड़ी बन गई थी तो आपने refund कर दिया. But you cannot be saying that, okay, please delete, you have to delete this post and the follow-up post, then we'll refund it. That's just, that's outright threatening someone to a certain extent कि आपने नहीं किया तो मैं पैसे नहीं दूंगा, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I think when you just raise the ticket and all that, you're dealing with some very lower level people in the customer care
Exactly.
before it gets escalated. So it's just a whole hassle.
Having said all this, I think that this was a one-off incident and it was an error. It was not exactly a fraud. A lot of people are saying that, Groww cheated this investor. That's not what happened. Basically, the reverse feed of the transaction did not come in on time, right? Or the broker didn't get intimation of that. So it was not that a false folio was created and they were some Bernie made of kind of thing was happening where the investment was shown as being there, but it was not there. Aisa kuch nahi tha. And I think the money has been refunded also. And right, so 99.9% of the time this will not happen. But anyway, it's a good practice to check the back end of your investments to see if they actually exist or not. Right, you should not wait for something like this to actually happen to you. One more thing that we wanted to speak about today was, because as we talk right now, the markets are at an all-time high again. Right, the fact that people think that they can time the markets. I know for a fact how many clients of ours or how many people we know told us before June 4th कि election आने दो, उसके बाद invest करेंगे, and now they're still sitting. And since
Correct.
June 4th to now, the market has already moved up by about 9.5%.
Correct.
And maybe this 9.5% is all people are going to make this year, right? So if they would have missed this 20 days,
Yeah.
maybe they've lost the returns of the entire year, right? So what do you guys think about timing the markets, and what do you want to say to the people who are still sitting on the sidelines?
Look,
And
honestly, I'm tired of this. Yeah, the one thing I don't like about being an advisor is getting the question कि यार क्या लगता है market का. Because go to our channel. Go 3 months ago, we've literally uploaded the same thing, market at an all-time high. I think we'll be doing this the same again after this particular video. People fail to understand that markets are going to be at an all-time high at some point of time. That does not mean कि बस आप सारा कैश लेके अपने घर पे बैठ जाओ.
yeah,
ठीक है, मोदी जी आएंगे नहीं आएंगे या कोई और होगा, उसके ऊपर हम अपनी पूरी इन्वेस्टमेंट स्ट्रैटेजी बेस करेंगे. It's not possible. As you meant, maybe 5%, 10% of your portfolio you want to keep cash. You want to put it maybe during an event day. Fair enough, I agree. But you cannot have 90% profit book करके मैं बैठ चुका हूँ, अब बस मैं देखूंगा. Because as you mentioned, right, Nifty 8.5%, Nifty Bank 13%. If you are sectoral, mid cap index 15%, small cap index 21%.
yeah,
Imagine now if people tell me that अच्छा small cap में अभी डालने का risky लग रहा है, तो भाई 20 दिन पहले
yeah,
we saw it was 20% at a discount. Was that cheap enough for you? So the idea is stock market is basically like a theme park, let's say, and market corrections are the admission tickets. You cannot have a roller coaster that only goes up. You're going to go crazy.
Yeah.
That roller coaster has to go down someday, right? And this is what is going to happen. So market at an all-time, I don't think that's a big deal. Just put your money at any given point of time. Keep some cash as a tactical allocation and work around that.
And when will people understand that investing on the basis of uncontrollable events is simply not possible?
Absolutely.
Give me one person in India who knew that one day before, 3rd June, when the exit poll said that BJP is going to win, right, a landslide victory.
Correct.
And then 4th June, when the announcement came out, right, and votes were starting to be counted.
Bhai, you woke up with Narendra Modi losing, right?
something completely opposite was happening. Tell me one person who predicted this entire this. But still people are waiting for election होने दो फिर decide करेंगे, like, अरे election से क्या फर्क पड़ता है? What does it matter?
In fact, so many people on that day itself, they saw markets were down by 8% that day, right? 8% is a huge discount, yeah. If you had to put in your
Nifty
money.
was down. So like
Nifty 8%,
large
forget
cap,
small and
the
mid cap.
most stable companies were down.
Exactly. If the top 50 countries of companies of our country are down by 8% collectively, you buy that no matter what. But still, अरे यार कल क्या होगा? परसों क्या होगा? You saw what happened, and now you're 20 days late, and you've lost everything. I mean, you've lost that opportunity.
What Viraj said, that people keep waiting, and then they see that the small cap has run up so much, or any particular sector within the market has run up so much,
Right.
and then they'll go and invest in that. So what ends up happening in trying to time the market, you're doing nothing but chasing returns, right? And we've seen many times, forget timing the market overall, people try to time sub segments within the market, whether it's a particular sector, whether it's large cap, mid cap, small cap, and again chasing the returns just never works. There's a good survey done by White Oak, which shows that in each year, different market caps, mid cap, large cap, small cap, does well in different years, right? If you're just going to try and chase the return, what did well last year, and you invest in that, your returns are actually much lower than if you just stick to one particular strategy and invest in that,
Correct.
right? So just create a balanced portfolio, keep doing your SIPs, invest in a regular staggered way, and you're going to be fine.
And so many people have mentioned time in the market versus timing the market.
I'm so tired of just repeating that Peter Lynch quote.
Same.
That
I was gonna say it.
More, I want to say it.
We've all said it 100
more
times for our
money.
clients.
Acha, we'll divide it. More money.
Right.
What more
Remember it
money?
like that. What more
More
money?
money is lost while anticipating the markets. Then
For
actually,
investors sitting on the sidelines.
correct.
Then actually timing the corrections.
More money has been lost waiting for a correction than in corrections
Exactly.
themselves.
ठीक है.
Bhai, इतने सारे quotes. I think more than White Oak Survey or anything. These quotes work. People
These
love
quotes,
Warren
yeah.
Buffett,
They
Peter
don't.
Lynch.
I've said it so many times to clients and they all appreciate the quote. हाँ सही बात है सही बात है. A
And the
month
next
later
day-
you'll have a call with them. Is like अभी थोड़ा market गर्म
वो
लग रहा है.
cash रखा था उसका क्या करूँ?
Yeah. With my personal investments, I think I've stopped thinking about this in a very, very long time. I don't care. If I have money in my account, I'm just putting it in the, in my mutual funds. I don't think I've tried to time the market in the last 4-5 years now.
I think
Not
as
once.
since BlueFort has started, right?
Yeah.
Initially, we were also of the opinion that okay, we need to try and time, and of course, COVID and all also happened within 1 year, so it was scary. But especially in the last 3 years, right? My one learning, which has been there, trying to time the market is not possible at all, no matter how big of an investor you are or how much information you have. It is genuinely not possible. कल उठ के कुछ भी कल उठ के यार रशिया इसने अपने पे बॉम्ब फोड़ दे कोई और कुछ करे
Yeah.
ठीक है क्या ही करेंगे टाइम करके. The idea is there are so many things happening around the world within our country that one particular event based you cannot time
And
it.
I think
It's
in
not
8-10
possible.
years, what I've seen is that market, most returns आती है in particular years, they come in such quick and short spurts, right?
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, for example, from 4 June to whatever the date is today, in 20-25 days, if you have missed this 9%, then it's very possible that you're not going to make returns in the whole year.
The rest of the year.
So for 365 days, the whole return might just come in 2 days.
Correct,
Might just come in
absolutely.
20 days or 15 days. Now, how the hell are you going to know if those 15 days when it's going to come?
Correct.
Right? You simply can't. So all you can do is just put your money and you can just wait and you can just hope that you catch those 15 days.
Right.
And if you don't catch those 15 days this year, it's okay. You might just catch them in the next 10 days, in the next year, right? So
And I think that's why, as collectively as a firm as well, what we have been using is in the last 2 years, because 2 साल से market is continuously crossing their all-time highs or whatever, right? The
2 साल से
strategy,
नहीं, in the last 10 years, it's crossed 9
whatever.
times or something
But
like
what
that.
we have been
yeah.
actively doing is the systematic transfer plan in general, right?
Yeah.
क्यों करना है यार कभी आएगा एक बार शांति से लिक्विड में डालो या शॉर्ट टर्म में डालो and then keep it deploying over a period of weekly tranches or monthly tranches, however you're comfortable.
Yeah, and the general rule is if you have a large lump sum, every time the market corrects 2-3%, just put in some money.
Exactly. That's the
1%
point.
में correct हुआ तो put in some money. How does it matter, whether it'll correct another 1%? If it corrects another 1%, put in some more money. And if you don't have the money, then just wait it out. It's okay. Sooner or later, you'll be fine.
But only if there was so much discipline.
Exactly.
So I mean, the thing is, we've had these discussions before and with clients as well. I'm sure there are some people watching and they're still not very satisfied with our discussion. Anyone in that camp, I would just ask them one question. Okay, market is high. You think market is overheated right now? Do you think the market will be higher after 5 years or not? If the answer is yes, then you might as well invest. It's that simple.
Okay, guys, but last time we did the Q&A,
Yeah.
and I've gotten a couple of follow-up questions from our viewers, let's say. So I'm gonna hit you one by one, right? Who wants to go first?
Yeah,
you
let's go.
decide, man. Up to you.
Okay, you go first.
Take it.
Again, it's I think related more towards the market timing bit only.
Okay.
Right, one of our followers just asked me that what should I do with my portfolio? Is it better to sell everything away and book those profits,
Huh.
or you suggest waiting right now?
So in the current market context,
Current market
basically, when
context,
should you
yeah.
sell?
Correct.
Right. So I think that there's only 2 reasons to sell. Okay. One is you need money for an upcoming objective. Okay, a wedding, you want to purchase a car, you want to purchase a house, whatever it is you need your money for, because at the end of the day, this is why we're saving, right?
Right.
And investing. That's number one. The number two is to rebalance the portfolio. So what that means is, let's say, according to your risk profile,
Quant बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया.
quant बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया, which is what we said above 20%. या अगर आपकी asset allocation, the appropriate asset allocation in equity debt is, let's say, 70-30. ठीक है, 70 in equities, 30 in debt. Let's say because the markets have done so well and you've pumped in a little more money, that allocation has gone to 90-10. Now you have 90% in equity and 10% in debt. It's advisable that you go back to your 70-30, right? Because you may not handle, when volatility starts kicking in and when the market starts correcting, you may not be able to handle that asset allocation of 90-10. So there are only 2 reasons for you to sell, and clients ask me this all the time, that we've made so much money, when do we sell? I say that the markets will hit another high next year. Why do you want to sell? Paisa chahiye to becho, nahi chahiye to stay invested. It's as simple as that. And I think a lot of this question was answered in our previous discussion on market timing. So 2 reasons only, that according to me.
Absolutely. Thanks, Siddhant, for answering that. I hope our viewers got that
So
particular...
formal, bro. Why is it so formal?
I think, I hope the viewers have got the answer. Another question which I got last time was what's the best way to invest in international stocks? according to you, Sayam?
So there are multiple ways to do it, but just to keep it brief, I'll categorize it in two parts. One is to do it all yourself. There are multiple apps through which you can do it. You have to open an account there. You have to kind of get an overseas bank account, LRS, where you have to do some TCS as well through the LRS route. And then you select and invest the international
By
stocks.
the
through
time
which
you
have
do
to
all
buy.
this, Nvidia goes like 50% higher, right?
Exactly my point. So it's possible. It's a lot of work, and you have to have the specific knowledge whether or not to buy Nvidia or whether or not to buy Tesla. Elon Musk is clearly busy with other things. He just had his 12th child.
12th child, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
But so coming back, the other option is to do it through a fund, like a mutual fund which invests in international stocks or international funds, and they do all of this for you. In most cases, for most individuals, I would say the best way to do it is through an Indian mutual fund which is investing internationally, and you have multiple options there as well.
you have any examples?
Yeah, so there are funds which invest in Nasdaq. There's Axis, Kotak, many funds like that. Motilal Oswal, which invest in Nasdaq. There's some which invest in S&P 500. There are some actively managed funds like Franklin, which invests in the US-based Franklin actively managed fund. There are funds which invest in other countries. There's an Edelweiss Greater China Fund as well, for example. Go with the fund. You have multiple options there, and it's much easier.
Any markets you specifically recommend?
I would say the US. I would say that is one of the very few growth markets. It's the hub of innovation, and most of the best companies, global companies that we use day to day, are all based out of the US.
Perfect. So, guys, Sayam has answered the question. Thank you so much. Now we'll time the US markets based on their elections.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe and share. And please hit the like button. Thank you.